Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports, joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, broadcaster and analyst for CBS Sports. On today's episode, we have a healthy news and notes episode for everybody. A lot of stuff to get through across soccer during this summer, specifically busy month for the month of July, and we're going to talk all about it. Before we get into everything, a quick reminder. We've been telling you this all month, but if you're new here or joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. We are nominated for the Best Female Hosted Podcast category in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. And if you like what you hear or have liked what you heard and keep coming back, we would be so appreciative if you nominated us. Just go on over to podcastawards.com/app/sign up and then toggle down to the female hosted podcast category. Also, World Soccer Talk nominated us for the best podcast. So vote for us. Go to worldsoccertalk.com, best podcast 2022 World Soccer Talk Awards. It's a lengthy link. We've got all kinds of stuff for you in the episode descriptions and also a QR code if you're joining us on YouTube that you can use to go ahead and vote for us. A lot of exciting stuff for us at Attacking Third and women's soccer, and I'm so happy to chat about it with you. Lisa, how you doing today?
I'm good. I love our news and notes episode because we get to like catch up on everything that has happened. So often we don't miss things. Like you and I are aware of the news. We're tweeting them out. Follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third because we're always doing the news there. But now we actually get to dive in, dissect what the press releases have been, what they've talked about, player signings, news happening around the world. The ESPYs just happened. We get to chat about them a little bit. Are we like turning into news right now? Like talking about
this might be like our eat. I love that.
Exactly. The ESPYs, the award shows, like maybe we'll do a little fashion dissect. I mean, no,
it.
I'm not good at fashion. We're not going to do that. But yes, it is so good to be here with you, Sandra, and talk about this. And we will not stop hammering that we have been nominated for not one, but two awards. The voting ends at the end of July. So spread the word, tell all your friends, use the QR code, use the links in the description for the podcast awards, the People Podcast Award, and also World Soccer Talk, because how cool would it be to bring home some hardware? We've worked really hard. We've been here for a year doing this, and we had a great couple weeks covering the Concacaf W Championship, and now I have taken a deep breath just watching the Euros. It's amazing.
It's still going on. I love it. This is it's been a while. I think since we've done like a lengthy news and notes episode, and I like them. I like how you sort of said it. We get to sort of go through everything and check everything out. It's like a check-in and with each other and also on the news, getting to hear each other's thoughts on it and sharing it with the show and with the audience. So let's start with maybe that e-news segment for us, the entertainment, I guess, portion of it. We're going to start with some fun stuff here. The ESPYs took place just last night. If you're joining us on this episode, tons of women's soccer stars in attendance. We saw during that entryway, we saw Ashley Hatch, Trinity Rodman repping Washington Spirit. Rodman earning a nomination for Best Breakthrough Athlete. Angel City's Kristen Press, Angel City's Madison Hammond. Old Rain was repping with Tobin Heath and Megan Rapinoe, who was nominated for Best Play. Jalen Howell was nominated for Best College Athlete. She's currently navigating her rookie season with Racing Louisville, but ton of NWSL representation during this award ceremony, but a lot of others nominated as well. Unfortunately, there was, I don't know if you caught this, Lisa, but there was definitely some unfortunate scenarios where there were some phenomenal athletes who were nominated but were unable to attend this ceremony. Quite frankly, there wasn't an invitation. We didn't get to see Caprice Idasco, and it was just one of those things where it's just like you celebrate on one end where you're like, it's prestige award and you want to like celebrate that, and then you're disappointed that you don't see the invite extended there. So got to see some players, in attendance, and got to see NWSL represented on a certain level, but in other areas it would have been maybe nice to see some of these I think maybe underrepresented, type of players. We're talking about, the Jalen Howell, who's in her rookie season. We're talking about a Caprice Idasco, who's been, part of NWSL for a lengthy amount of time, and just coming off of a Defender of the Year type of season. But a lot of fashion in play. Like you said, we won't, I think, get into deep on that. I guess we'll just keep it simple and say everybody looked great.
Everyone looked fantastic, hands down. It's so fun to see these athletes like dressed up. Like, frankly, we get glimpses of it before matches, right? Gotham's got the red carpet. It's now like the thing in the NWSL where they get a little photo shoot before walking in pregame in their outfits. But to see them like in dresses and ball gowns and like dressed to the nine in their suits, I was like, this is it. I'm so here for this. So go check out. We have a lot of those images. I know NWSL Twitter has them. We have them on Twitter at Attacking Third, TikTok and Instagram too, Attacking Third. But yeah, you mentioned some of the players that maybe weren't there, but they were nominated. Yes. So like best NWSL player, the nominees were Ashley Hatch, Aubrey Bledsoe, both from Washington Spirit, Jess Fishlock from OL Reign, and then Caprice Didasco from Gotham. But Bledsoe, we didn't see there. Fishlock, Didasco, not there. And Ashley Hatch was the winner of that award. So that was pretty sweet to see that the Golden Boot winner from the 2021-2022 season, Ashley Hatch, she won the best NWSL player. There's a lot of other like really cool awards. The best athlete with a disability in women's sports, it was Kate Ward. She was nominated. She did not end up winning this category, but I loved this story. Kate Ward, she's a UTEP soccer assistant coach, and she's a member of the United States Deaf Soccer Women's National Team. And she was nominated. That is huge for that community. And just the one soccer player that was nominated in that category for best athlete with a disability in women's sports. But there was a couple other incredible performances. So the ESPYs it's like the Grammys and the Golden Globes of the sports world. And so they have all these like niche categories where it's like best NWSL player, right? Best athlete with a disability. But then they have overall best play. That is like in every play that happened in the sports world, all of the amazingness that happened, and our very own United States Women's National Team forward, Megan Rapinoe, won for best play. It was so exciting to see. I mean, and this play was fantastic. Do you remember this, Olympico?
Oh gosh, it's a year ago. We're over here talking about continuing our birthday celebration month, and it's like, here it is. We've got Megan Rapinoe nailing an Olympico in the Tokyo Olympics. If you're watching us on YouTube, we've got the clip here for you to check out. It was a very special moment. It's just another reminder of what a player like this is capable of in really, really big moments.
Huge moments. And she's done this twice now. So scoring off a corner kick, it's really hard to do. And both of them have come in the Olympics in big minutes. And this one was against Australia. It was the opening like 8, 9, 10 minutes of this match where the U.S. ultimately winning bronze throughout this tournament. But huge for Megan Rapinoe to win this award. Huge for the United States Women's National Team, I think, as well. And just a really fun night at the ESPYs, especially for Megan Rapinoe. But there was some other good athletes and winners as well. That player right there, Sam Kerr, she walked home with something as well.
Yeah, we're watching the clip on. We're watching the clip of Megan Rapinoe nailing this Olympico, and it's against Australia, which obviously features Sam Kerr, who won the best international athlete in women's soccer category. Sam Kerr up in Chelsea and the Australian women's national team went up against some really talented players. Alexia Putellas, who's from Barcelona, or plays with Barcelona, and it's coming off of a fantastic couple of seasons with her team and internationally. Best player, Ballon d'Or winner, Vivian Miedema from Arsenal, Carolyn Graham Hansen, repping Norway and Barcelona as well, another teammate of Putellas. So heavy competition, in that category, but cool to see Sam Kerr walk away with the ESPY in this one. She's been nominated for a couple ESPYs, and I believe this is her first one. So congrats to her on just picking up some more hardware, and congrats to Megan Rapinoe for picking up some additional hardware as well for herself, and really cool to sort of see her, go up there and make her acceptance speech, and bring more attention to Brittany Griner, who is, still just hanging in Russia at the moment. So using her platform is always, I don't think that is too surprising for people who are fans or follow Megan Rapinoe. So congrats to Sam Kerr and Megan Rapinoe picking up those awards. Kate Ward picking up the nomination there, and to everyone, quite frankly, who was nominated for all this. It was great to see so many different familiar names, I guess is the way I should really be putting this. These are players that we cover week in and week out, and it was really great to be able to see them kind of, get fancy and have a night out and pick up some hardware, and not have to sweat through 90 minutes to necessarily pick it up. They got to go and have a good time and see if they won or not. That's, I think, was a nice little component to it. But outside of this particular night of stars, I guess, as we could sort of refer to it, there's, we've put to rest Concacaf W Championship. We've talked about the United States women's national team going out there and meeting all of their objectives, quite frankly, qualifying for the World Cup, the Olympics Gold Cup, winning the entire tournament. But there's still a lot of activity that is going on right now in the month of July. This phenomenal month of women's soccer, and we still have things at play with the Euros, with Copa America Femenina, Women's African Cup of Nations, and the Euros have been sort of kind of smack dab in the middle of the day. African Cup of Nations has been smack dab in the middle of the day. So I know people have sort of been keeping an eye on that as well. But we're getting into the knockout stages here with the Euros, Lisa.
We sure are. The group stages were incredibly entertaining with the Euros. It's 4 different groups of 4 teams, and then the top 2 teams in each groups were going to advance to the knockout round. So at the end of the initial group stage play, it was England and Austria from Group A, Germany and Spain from Group B, Sweden and Netherlands from Group C, and then from Group D, France and Belgium moving on to the knockout stages. So the winner in each of those groups was going to play the runner-up in a different group that they were playing. So now we're getting to see out-of-group competition, which so much of these tournaments, right, once you're placed in your group, you just look at that group competition because that's what you got to focus on. It's almost like 2 tournaments in one. You've got to get out of the group stages, and then once you move on and you know who you're going to play, you can start to focus on that game. And frankly, these matches are insane and incredible. They just get better and better. So in the quarterfinals, it's England against Spain, Germany versus Austria, Sweden versus Belgium, and France versus the Netherlands. The semifinals are going to be Tuesday, July 26th and Wednesday, July 27th, with the final being on July 31st. So there's still, like at the time of this recording, 10 days left of the Euros. So if you've missed the knockout, or if you missed the group stages and you've missed the first rounds of the quarterfinals, the first couple of games of it, there's still time because these matches are incredible. The stakes are so high for these nations. We've seen different injuries and different players coming in and out. There was a couple players on COVID protocol that actually will now be back, which is great with some of their respective teams. It's just, there's so many different factors that these teams are dealing with. And England, as the host country, they have beaten Spain, so they continue to move on. That game was incredible. But I think that's a huge team to keep an eye on. Germany, of course, against Austria, that match as well. But France and Netherlands too. Like, it's just such good soccer, Sandra. It's the best way to spend. I'm on the East Coast, so it's the best way for me to spend my afternoons.
Yeah,
is just watching these matches.
I love that. It was cool to, in your absence and when you were enjoying your much deserved vacation, we had invited Lori Lindsay back on to the show. We chatted a little bit about NWSL. We chatted. Of course, I wanted to pick her brains about the Euros because she's been putting in work there, and it's so wild to sort of even just see this, like we're talking about like just a week ago already. And that's the thing about these international competitions. They're rapid fire. They're short amount of times, and you have these teams competing like every other day almost, it sort of feels like, and to sort of see the knockout rounds into play already. England Spain match, like you mentioned, just out of this world. I know we were talking a little bit off mic about it, so I'll bring it on here now. But talking about the end result in that game and the what ifs for me, like what if there was a Putellas available? What if there was a Jenny Hermoso who was available for this Spain side? Loved the energy, from the Spanish side there. They're just a fun team to watch. Dangerous, absolutely dangerous. Beware, I guess, right? Come future fixtures against them, but it's been really, really cool to sort of be able to watch all of these players in under this type of lens, knowing, quite frankly, that we're only going to manifest good things in 2023, and hope that we're going to ultimately see at least 80 to 90% of these types of players who are playing in these tournaments, probably in the World Cup as well. So it's a very exciting time. So yeah, I'm with you. It's 100% a really good way to sort of, have something in the middle of the day to take a look at and keep an eye on. Women's Africa Cup of Nations is still going on. So there's a match for third place into play, and the final. Nigeria and Zambia will be competing for third place. The final is going to be Morocco and South Africa. I'm not too sure if a lot of people had that predicted, but I'm excited for that one. Copa America Femenina is still in play. They're also entering their knockouts as well. Semifinals are already sort of coming into play. Brazil is going to be facing off against Paraguay on July the 26th. Monday, July 25th is up in the air. Colombia has clinched their place, but they're going to be facing the runners-up of Group B. So that could either be Venezuela or Argentina, and that is a game with heavy implications because those two teams are facing each other today, Thursday, if you're able to watch in the evening. So the winner of that is going to face Colombia in the semifinal. So lots of really, really cool stuff here. And we were, again, Lisa, chatting a little bit about this off mic, and just how this month, this summer of women's soccer has just been like so fulfilling in a number of ways. It's been really, really nice to be a part of.
I think that's a really good way to put it. Incredibly entertaining. It's so fun to see these players, some new players, some younger players that are breaking into their national teams, get really good moments and good looks. And this is foreshadowing for the Women's World Cup, because we've passed a year, right? We are under a year until the kickoff of the 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. The negative 1 year anniversary, I guess you would say, was on Wednesday of this week. So watching all of these different tournaments and all of these different players, keep an eye on some of them. And if you're watching them, if there's players or teams that you are really keyed in on or really excited about, circle them, make a note of them, because you'll see them again next summer playing in the World Cup. And if you're only cheering for one nation, it's not that fun. You've got to have your hand in all the different pots. You got to know what's happening, because it's way more entertaining to do it that way. And that's what I'm doing. I love it. I love watching all of these different tournaments and everything. And the soccer is amazing. Like the competition is so good, and it's so fun to watch. And the development of women's soccer has come so far, right? Like in how well these players are and how well they're doing. Oh, I love it. I love it. Keep watching soccer, everyone.
100%. I'm with you. I think that's also sort of the really sort of maybe kind of fun aspect, I think, for us when we're watching these types of games. Like sometimes you watch these big international tournaments as a neutral. Sometimes like we're watching the Euros as an American audience, and we're watching, Women's African Cup of Nations, as an American audience. Stuff like that is very, very entertaining, I think, if you have a neutral standing in it. And it's also just sort of cool to watch these competitions unfolding before our eyes and like checking off like qualified for the World Cup, qualified for the World Cup, qualified for the World Cup. Like we're slowly starting to see that group of 30 something teams who are going to be competing in 2023 in Australia and New Zealand. So it's no longer just Australia and New Zealand. Like we knew that those two teams are obviously going to be part of the World Cup because they are the co-hosts. But, we were the home of the AFC Women's Asian Cup, and we got to see some early qualifications there. We saw Japan, South Korea, China, Philippines go ahead and punch their ticket. We saw Vietnam, advance as the playoff winners. Sweden, Spain, France, Denmark have clinched their space in this World Cup. United States, obviously, we've gone ahead and celebrated that. Canada, as well as the winner, Costa Rica, Jamaica, and Zambia, Morocco, Nigeria, and South Africa. So we're like just seeing little by little all of these nations punching their ticket to the World Cup. So I wanted to definitely try to draw folks' attentions to Copa America Femenina, because there are things still in play there. And we will see who will be representing CONMEBOL in the 2023 World Cup. So it's been exciting, but we've got some NWSL news to get through, and there's some things to break down over the course of NWSL, even though they are in the midst of a little bit of a break themselves. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat all things NWSL after the break. We're back to talk about NWSL news. This is the NWSL news and notes portion of the news and notes episode that we're doing. And Lisa, I'm glad that you're back so that we could chat a little bit about this, because this happened while you were away. When I'm talking about the NWSL Board of Governors meeting alongside NWSL Commissioner Jessica Berman, and some really cool things got kind of bullet pointed out of this meeting. And I was able to touch on it briefly a little bit with Lori Lindsay when she was on the show with us, because that it was all sort of breaking in real time. But I couldn't wait for you to come back and like have us be settled with CONCACAF to sort of revisit it, I think, in a different light, to kind of get your perspective of it. If people have missed the Board of Governors news, there's some really interesting bullet points that came out of the 2-day series of meetings in New York. I believe it was over the course of July 12th and 13th in New York City. We have highlighted some good stuff for you all at cbssports.com. I went ahead and took some of the most, I think, interesting kind of tidbits and kind of put them out there for you to take a look at. And Lisa, I wanted to get some of your reactions and hold some space here for you, because, you know, you're the other half of A3 here. And some of the cool stuff for me that stood out right away that I wanted to point out to folks was things like improvements to the broadcast, the talking about inclusion of a ton of cameras, investment on that side, the possibility of introducing VAR in 2023. Expansion has long been in the conversation, you know, of NWSL, and that was something that they talked about as well. So lots of cool things kind of coming out around this. I just wanted to give you the chance to sort of give your reactions to it as well. Was there anything in particular that you looked at and you said, I like this one a lot?
Well, thanks, Sandra. I love to give my thoughts and talk about anything and everything. But yeah, this meeting was, I think, really huge. We for the NWSL, they hired Jessica Berman as the new commissioner, as someone that wanted to come in and shake things up and change things around and make this league better. And I think that after this first meeting of the Board of Governors and this first announcement that came out of this, I think that the steps to improve the league are the steps that the league is taking to improve are in the right direction. And I think that's spearheaded by Jessica Berman. And frankly, I love some of these upgrades that they're coming up with. I mean, you mentioned VAR in the 2023 season. I think that's huge, not only for like close goals that happen, but injuries and player safety throughout this league. There's so many times we're like, well, we don't really know. There's no VAR on that. And especially as a broadcaster, sometimes it's really hard to make a judgment and talk about a play, a foul, anything that happens when you're only seeing one or two angles of it and you can't tell. You don't get conversations with the officials or anything like that. So that's huge. I love that they will be incorporating VAR. But in terms of upgrading all of the broadcasts, like that's fantastic. In order to make this league as professional as it should be and as great as the players are and the competition is, the broadcasts have to continue to get better, right? It's not just these steps, continuing to take more and more steps like that, including higher quality cameras, infrastructures, additional staff to work these things, because so much of it does come down to budgets, right? You can't expect to do something at a $60,000 budget if you only have $20,000. Like, that's just not how it works. So reallocating some of those funds and prioritizing different ways to do things, I think is huge in adding broadcasters to the Twitch broadcast, because throughout this regular season so far, there's been one broadcaster for the international Twitch streams when the other games are on Paramount Plus. And just increasing them overall is good, right? For everyone involved, for the players, for the fans watching at home, for the broadcasters calling the games. It's a huge improvement. I am excited about it. I'm excited to kind of see what else keeps happening, what else keeps coming, what other tricks up Jessica Berman's sleeve she has for people that are invested in the NWSL like we are, right? Like, this is huge for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I am listening to like the press conference that took place shortly after the press release. So that's ultimately how this news kind of got rolled out. The league rolled out with a press release. It talked about some of those bullet points, and then Berman was available for a media call with that was open to various media who cover the NWSL, and hopping on that call, a lot of great stuff coming from our colleagues, and asking some good kind of questions, and areas of elaborating on some of these things, and there was obviously a lot of interest in this concept of adding cameras and improving the broadcast, and what that means and what that looks like. And I was eager to sort of hear your thoughts on it, because you're someone who has been on these calls, Lisa. I hear you. I know our listeners hear you on some of these calls, whether it's directly on Paramount Plus games or even Twitch games. So this is something that I knew would also sort of impact you, and like the work that you do outside of A3. So I was like, I gotta have Lisa talk about this a little bit and sort of hear her perspective on it. But I'm with you. I mean, I especially, I think, in terms of all of the things that came out of these meetings and from that press conference, if the ambition is to truly incorporate something VAR, or something like VAR, because I don't know if people are aware of this, but there are versions of VAR. There's like a VAR light, and there's things like goal line technology that's separate from VAR. If the ambition is truly, yeah, if the ambition is truly 2023, that would ultimately mean that requires more cameras automatically. I think if you are looking to have that ambition. So the fact that they are already going to be adding cameras in an effort to boost production of the broadcast, I think is very important. But I think that's also going to be testing the waters of what that could look like if they truly do, plan to incorporate VAR. So I'm hopeful, and I'm eager to sort of see how things go. I'm also really eager to sort of see how the broadcast look moving forward, because they said that this was going to take place very soon. Coming as soon as August.
Yeah, immediately coming. And I want to make it known to people that are listening to this that no one is like losing their jobs. Like, the people are staying the same. The hardworking people that put in so much effort every single game behind the scenes in production, and directors and producers and talent, those people are not changing. They're adding additional resources for those people to do their jobs better. And that's huge. That's like mainly the behind the scenes of what's happening with this and these changes that are happening. The people that were currently doing their jobs are going to continue to do them, but they're going to be better supported, whether it's with additional staff members or a little bit more financing or better equipment or more guidance and more leadership in their roles that they're currently doing, which will lead to a better product. But it's going to be the same people calling the games, producing the games, directing, TDing them, camera operators, all of those on-site people as well are the same. They just now have more resources to do their jobs better, as anyone would in any of their individual professions across the world. Anyone listening to this, that's my last 2 cents about this.
A valuable 2 cents as always. Listen, we got the time. It's a break right now, so we're taking the time to sort of chat and discuss and hang out. Really, this is a hangout. We're hanging out with each other. If you're listening to us, you're hanging out with us too, because it's a bye week. It's a bye week after the international tournament. There's a pause in play in the NWSL as well. we're seeing the CBA get, utilized, being put into action. There's within the contract that there needs to be a break in the season, for players, and quite frankly, that's important. So, coming right alongside the conclusion of the Concacaf W Championship, and thankfully, because of this break, it gives us the opportunity to talk about all of this stuff, and that includes some news that has also dropped shortly ahead of this break. And one of the things I think that stood out was a suspension for Angel City sporting director Eni Aluko. She was suspended ultimately for entering the field on the July 9th match versus San Diego Wave FC, and she'll be serving the suspension during the Angel City home match versus OL Reign on Saturday, July 30th. So that sort of dropped, and we were like, okay, but violation. They have it within the release of the reasoning why, and per rule number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But something interesting to sort of keep an eye on. Jaden Shaw. I mean, this also dropped kind of in between a time where you were just coming back in, from into work, Lisa, while we were still kind of in the middle or tail end of CONCACAF W Championship. So it was a wild, wild time. And I know you and I both have some thoughts and opinions on this, but Jaden Shaw officially signing with San Diego Wave FC, the 17-year-old midfielder out of Texas, a US U20 star. It's her first professional contract. It is going to be through 2023 with no option year, turning 18 in November of this year. But it came into light when the league opened the discovery process for Shaw, rather than forcing her to wait until the 2023 draft. She's someone who's been actually training with the Washington Spirit for the last 6 months. But because of the discovery process, San Diego was ultimately able to obtain the rights to this potential player, and now has been officially announced with San Diego.
So this was for those that are maybe hearing this news for the first time, or really have some questions about it. Jaden Shaw is a young player that Olivia Moultrie walked, so Jaden Shaw could run, perhaps, is the theme here behind this. Because Olivia Moultrie, another incredibly young player that has been training with Portland Thorns for an incredibly long time. And Mark Parsons, former head coach of the Thorns, fought to get Moultrie a contract previously, a year ago. The NWSL said you couldn't play in the league until you were 18. So now things have opened up and things have changed in that sense. But with this 17-year-old Jaden Shaw, she forego her NWSL eligibility because she wanted to play professionally. And head coach of Washington Spirit, Chris Ward, welcomed her in the spring of 2022 for preseason to start training professionally and train with the Washington Spirit. And as a player in Jaden Shaw, you're now training with the reigning NWSL champions and essentially the same squad that won it. So what an incredible environment for Jaden Shaw to be in. Conversations had started talking because you had to be 18 in order to enter the draft, and the draft will be in January of 2023. And she doesn't turn 18 until November of 2022. So there was this push spearheaded by Shaw herself, as well as Chris Ward, to open this discovery process for her, to allow her the opportunity for teams to sign her. Now, when a player enters the discovery process, it doesn't mean that Washington Spirit just gets to sign her, because the discovery process works in that once a player is in there, the number one team in the discovery lineup, I'm not entirely sure the terminology. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sandra, but the number one team that's in there gets their first pick. And that just so happened to be San Diego Wave FC. And instead of bypassing on Shaw and then Angel City bypassing on her, and then so on and so on and so on, until Chris Ward and Washington Spirit could sign Jaden Shaw, San Diego Wave FC, Casey Stoney, saw the opportunity in signing this incredibly young, talented athlete, Jaedyn Shaw, and having them join the team. And Shaw also said yes. So there's like a double whammy process here of how this all happened. But this is an incredibly good player. She's a midfielder. She can score goals. She's done it at the youth international level. When she was just 15 years old, she was invited to train with French club PSG. And just the talent level, the experience that this 17-year-old already has is tremendous. And then the fact that San Diego has picked her up, huge. I think that's huge for the team, for San Diego, for the league, and for this player. But is it almost like a backstabbing of Washington Spirit? What are your thoughts on this one, Sandra?
Wow, I like that. A backstab.
I don't know. I said almost, because frankly, like, she had the free reign to do this. San Diego has that's the part of being a professional athlete, to sign someone like this, despite having spent the last 6 months with Washington Spirit, who also wanted her, who pushed for this and wanted her.
Yeah, no, I think that's part of I mean, that's part of the energy around this, right? You know, you're inviting a player of this sort of caliber, or the with the potential high ceiling, let's just say, because we've yet to see the young Shaw go out and play a pro match at this level. But you're putting in work, you know, for the potential for a player to hit their ceiling. And quite frankly, the Spirit have done a good job drafting young players and developing them. You know, we have seen the rise of Andy Sullivan. We've seen Ashley Sanchez and her ability, Trinity Rodman having her breakout season with the Spirit last year, going all the way to the championship, winning a championship with this young core of players, and Rodman also picking up Rookie of the Year honors. And I think if you have these types of players that you can point at and say, hey, you come train with it, you'll be a champion. You know, I think that's a hell of a great sales pitch, quite frankly, if you're the Spirit and you are on that end of looking at recruiting and scouting. And yeah, you're talking about months, months and months that have been spent with a specific franchise. And I gotta say, when the news dropped, it threw me a little bit, because you brought up Olivia Moultrie, and I'm glad that you did, because it was quite the roller coaster for Moultrie's entry into the league, and that also included a discovery process in which OL Reign took the rights to Olivia Moultrie. So, you know, we're looking back at that and thinking, you know, is there perhaps a bit of gamesmanship there? And looking, fast forwarding now to this, shout out to Jason Anderson, colleague out of DC area, tweeting that a source with knowledge of the talks over Shaw's rights between San Diego and the Spirit. At one point, San Diego's asking price was $250,000. And Olivia Moultrie's rights, 3rd round draft pick. Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, the level of maybe gamesmanship perhaps in this. It rubbed me the wrong way. I'm not going to act like it didn't. And I was like, wow. I was like, that's certainly a starting point for when you're talking about negotiating. Like, that's, I guess the concept is, let's aim very, very high and then go from there. And unfortunately, I think it didn't sort of pan out maybe the way the Spirit were possibly anticipating. I think my initial reaction to this, like, tweeting out Twitters for the jokes, and I'm just like, wow, like, there's a ton of like energy that's similar to, like, didn't do the work in the group project but showed up with confidence on presentation to demand an A+ type of energy from San Diego here. And I'm just kind of like, I respect it, ? Like, it was weird for me to process. I was just like, well, okay. I said, they took the rights of this discovery rights of this player. It's within the rules. That doesn't mean that people aren't gonna find criticism within it or say that feels kind of weird and wrong. just because it's like within the rules, that doesn't mean that it's not going to have a certain type of perception, especially when you have reporting around it talking about how high
Yeah.
the price point was at one point, and ultimately how things didn't work out for a team that had already been working with this player for 6 months. And I think you can also maybe sort of see that within the contract um, of Shaw with San Diego. The fact that there's the opportunity to play professionally. She doesn't have to wait until that 2023 draft, but it is only through the 2023 season. So it's only through next year with no option. So what's that going to mean, in the future for a player like Shaw, in the landscape of the league in 2023? That I think it's still a little bit of a TBD.
Yeah, and I'm not that surprised that her contract is only through 2023 with no option. I'm surprised that there's no option, but I'm not surprised that it's only a 1-year contract, because as a player that is so young, it's a very big difference jumping into the professional game, especially into the NWSL, and especially seeing how well San Diego does this year, right? Like, they've been number 1 in the standings for 10 weeks. So this is a good team that Shaw is going to. And for
Oh
Casey
yeah.
Stoney, first time coach in the NWSL, the 1-year contract is, I think, fine for this type of player.
Yeah. Because quite frankly, it goes
You
back
don't
to what
know.
I initially said. I mean, yes, is this a player that a lot of people are high on, have watched in the youth programs and are very, very excited about? 100%. But you don't know until you know, unfortunately. It was a lot of similar energy around a player like Trinity Rodman.
Yeah.
There were a lot of pundits, and myself included, who thought that she went really high in that initial draft. I thought that maybe she would need some time for development to transition into the pro level. She absolutely went out and did that. That is what she did. And unfortunately, you just don't know
And became
until
rookie
you
of the
know.
year. And you don't know. And maybe Shaw will be rookie of the year or
Yeah.
something, which is incredible. But we don't know. We don't know. So I
Yeah.
think
So
the 1 year is fine. The no option, maybe a little bit surprising, but I'm fine with the 1 year.
yeah. So I'm very excited to hopefully see this player get some time soon, and then we get to sort of see in action how she fits with this San Diego Waves. I mean, they're number 1 right now. They're top of the league. They've been putting together a very strong campaign in 2022. Does something like the arrival of a player like this disrupt what San Diego has going on? Casey Stoney just doesn't strike me as the type to completely sort of revamp her plans for this team moving forward.
I
So,
think Shaw's got to get some training under her,
yeah,
right?
I absolutely trust Casey Stoney
Yeah.
to go ahead and handle this situation 100% well. So I'm eager to sort of see her kind of worked in and sort of her introduction into NWSL, but definitely a type of headline where we were like, this is very, very interesting. Let's talk about it a little bit. Some other signing news to close out the episode with Kansas City Current announcing the signing of Claire Lavoisier. I believe Lavoisier. We want to try to get it correct here on Attacking Third. So thank you for including the pronunciation within your press release, Kansas City Current. Shout out to y'all. French midfielder who plays with Bordeaux and the French national team signed with Kansas City through 2023 with an option for 2024. Going to be joining the team ASAP, quite frankly, and potentially going to be seeing her getting some minutes against Orlando, but who knows? Again, we'll see. But that's the earliest we can see her arrival or her debut will be Sunday, July 31st, potentially against the Pride. So,
Yeah, it's
of
a
course,
huge signing. I think this is huge for Kansas City as a team and a club that is really, they are not just saying they want to win, but they're actually like putting their money where their mouth is and continuing. They're on a 7-game unbeaten streak right now.
yeah.
Like, they are cruising. They haven't lost since May. They've put really good pieces into place. They've traded for certain players. Now they bring in Lavoisier to come in and spice up this midfield. And I just imagine a player like Lavoisier who's played her entire pro career in France. So all of that experience that this type of player brings to the NWSL game. And then you slot her in the midfield alongside players like Lola Bonta, Victoria Pickett, Desiree Scott. The options are endless for this team. And Matt Potter is just dripping in gold, and all of the different players and the skill sets that he has. This is a huge move for Kansas City, and I've been very impressed with what they've been able to do on and off the pitch, whether it's with their facilities, the players that they're bringing in this French international, Lavoisier, how they've been able to play and compete on the pitch, going into big arenas like Lumen Field and come out with results. The ownership, it's really just been a trickle-down effect. And that's what the players have said when we've spoken with them, that they feel that the ownership wants to win and wants this club to be the best in this league. And that's how the players feel in terms of respected and the equipment that they're given and everything that they've done for them. And man, this Kansas City team is fun to watch. So huge acquisition for Matt Potter in the side for sure.
Yeah, this is a team that I'm keeping an eye on as they start to make their march in this second half of the season. I think getting Sam Mewis back into trainings, right, is a huge positive sign. And the fact that they are also boosting up that midfield core heading into this very exciting stretch of the season, I think is going to be really, really crucial for Kansas City. So we'll see how this pans out for them coming up. But that's going to be it from us today on our episode here. We hope you all enjoyed catching up with the two of us and on all the news and notes across NWSL and all the action across women's soccer globally. Another reminder before we close out, again, I know we've been harping you about this all month, but we're always getting new people introduced to us. So if you're new, welcome. Thanks for joining along with the episode. But we're nominated for some awards, the Best Female Hosted Podcast category in the People's Choice Podcast Awards. Go and vote for us at podcastawards.com/app/sign up. Toggle down to the Female Hosted Podcast category and click vote for us. And you can also vote for us for the World Soccer Talk Best Podcast. Vote for us at worldsoccertalk.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Attacking Third. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you listen to your shows. We're also available as video. Subscribe at youtube.com/Attacking Third. And make sure that you stay with us for so much more as the best month of women's soccer continues. For Sandra and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.